everybody, Trevor here. If you've been following me for a long time now, you might remember watching my 3 videos regarding non-televised characters. Well, the reason why I'm making this video is because I want to talk a little bit more about which characters I like to see get televised and which ones don't. The first characters I want to talk about are Jinty and Pug. Remember in part 2 where I said that they shouldn't be televised? Well, like the other National Railway Museum engines, I'm also having second thoughts on these two tank engines. If I were to have it my way, I would not only stay true to their origins, but I also would like to see how they would sound. And while I'm normally against gender swapping in general, but in order to be a little more diverse, I would turn Jinty into a female engine because Jinty to me sounds a lot like Ginny. But Pug can stay a male, and he can still be best friends with Jinty. And yes, they would still remain black like in the books. Oh, and speaking of gender swapping, another set of characters I would change is one of the blister diesels from the Arsdale Railway. I would also change their names from Blisters 1 and 2 to Blake and Bliss, and they can be brother and sister, but they'll still be called the Blisters collectively, just like how Splatter and Dodge were known together as Splodge by Diesel 10 and Thomas Magic Railroad. Also, if one of the Blister Diesels were female, that would mean that Sigrid of Arsdale won't have to be the only female on the Arsdale Railway, which would be fair if you ask me. Now let's move on to the other Mid-Sodor Railway engines, which consist of Tim, Jim, Jerry, Albert, John, Jennings, and many, many others. I honestly would love to see some of these characters make an appearance in the television series because I think they look quite interesting, especially Tim, who is a tramway engine like Toby, Mavis, and Flora. However, I still don't think Stanley should be televised since he already got replaced by Smudger in season 4. But at the same time, it would also be interesting to have another replacement for Stanley that looks just like him, but with a different coat of paint and a completely different personality. I do plan on making a top 10 ideas for Thomas characters in the future, but not right this instant. Oh, and that's another thing. Imagine if Bertram and Furious Freddy once worked together on the Mid-Sodor Railway. Now that would be an interesting twist since they are both old engines and are TV series exclusive. Now let's talk about Albert, Helena, and Victoria from the 41st book in the Railway series, Thomas and Victoria. I mentioned these three as honorable mentions a couple of times, and I'm honestly having third thoughts on them. I know I kept saying this a lot in the past, but I don't want every single Thomas character to be televised anymore because I don't want too many new characters in the show just to make a quick buck. In other words, instead of televising Albert, Helena, and Victoria, I will replace them with Hasty Hannah and possibly Elsie the luggage van, who only appeared in the Wilbur Audrey model layouts. Speaking of which, there is this red tender engine named Bloomer, who is one of the rare characters exclusive to the Wilbur Audrey model layouts. According to the Wikia, he usually takes occasional special trains along Thomas's branch line. Imagine if he were part of the Earl's Railway Museum. Now that would be cool. In addition, in terms of the mainland diesels from the other railway, not including the ones from the Great Race and Journey Beyond Sodor, I would only televise certain ones as background characters, especially these three rude ones next to Stepney. And I honestly would have liked to see them have actual names instead of referring to them just by their numbers. Oh, and Boko's Blue Brother could make a great candidate too. Let's talk about one more. In terms of book-only characters, the one I think who has the most potential to appear in the CGI series would be Dilly the Barge, not to be confused with Dilly the Duck from season 3. If she were to have a voice actress, then she would probably have the same exact voice as Marion, who was voiced by Olivia Colman. And by the way, Marion and Dilly will make excellent tour guides if you ask me. As for the other book-only Thomas characters, maybe the Lost Blue Engine from Monster Under the Shed as a background character, as well as the giant from Thomas and the Beanstalk. But I would replace the Golden Steam Engine with Lady since we can't have two golden engines in the same universe. And besides, Lady has more potential to come back than the Golden American Engine in my humble opinion, because she came first, and that she first appeared in Thomas Magic Railroad and made her last appearance in Calling All Engines. I know a lot of people don't consider the first Thomas movie to be canon to the TV series, but it would make perfect sense to bring back Lady just for this story. Anyways, tell me your thoughts down below on which Thomas characters you would like to see televised. Do you agree with what I've said, or do you have your own personal preference? And before we end things off here, I just wanted to say, sorry I have been uploading videos in a while. I was just tired and needed a break after talking about DreamWorks a couple of times. I hope you understand that. And besides, I had a lot of stuff happening in real life, so I don't want to get into full detail on that. This is Trevor Davis, signing off.